reading some type of magazine. I mean, that's, and then we look at, okay, well, let's face it, okay, if you have no money and you get a public defender, the legal system's rigged. If you
100%.
If you have the money, if you have enough money, the majority of people will walk away from crimes that me or you would, be executed or in prison for the rest of our life.
And what does that tell you? It tells you it's all about the money. Those courts are there to make a profit for the state. Period.
Well, years and years ago, when I was around 21 or 22, I got stuck with jury, in the county I lived in. Yeah. And you know what? It was on a bad case. I'm not going to go into it. But you know what? After about 2 days of being, in a hotel room and then after the trial, right? We had to find out if this guy was innocent or not. You know what? After the first day, the majority of people wanted to go home. I got a baby I got to take care of. Or I got my job I got to go back to, right? The guy didn't have a fair trial. I'm just bluntly, I watched it and it made me sick. It made me realize, that some of the you think that you got a fair trial, you don't get a fair trial. You don't. Innocent to proven guilty by what? A jury of 12 or whatever the jury size is. If you got a couple people wanting to go home, they actually convince other people, hey, the guy's guilty. Well, let's just go home. Find him guilty. They don't want to be there for a week.
Yeah, they're just going to say, yes, guilty. I just want to get home, and then that's it. They don't really, it's not them that's going to go to jail. They don't care. They just want to get out of there. Most of those crimes, if you really boil it down to what it comes down to, is most crimes are financial crimes and wouldn't even be considered crimes if it wasn't for the monetary system. So, you got people going to jail for, let's say, for instance, you can write your own promissory note, and we can all write our own promissory note, and you can deposit $50,000 into your bank account through your promissory note, and then go buy whatever car you want. And if everybody could do that, there would be no car theft. You wouldn't have to steal somebody else's property. You wouldn't have to rob a bank to get money for whatever you're going to do. You wouldn't have to sell drugs. You wouldn't have to prostitute yourself. You wouldn't have to do a lot of different things that are called criminal activity, just because they're making their money operations by citizens who aren't going to pay taxes. Like, let's say, for instance, I start selling drugs. Let's say I want to start selling cocaine, and I have a lot of buyers lined up, and they want to buy my cocaine. Now, the government says that's a drug, and it's an illegal drug, and I can't sell it. But yet I got buyers knocking at my door, 24/7, wanting to buy my cocaine, and this is personal business between me and the people I'm selling to. Why does some corporation that's pretending to be a government have to come in and get involved in my business? Because they're not making money on it. They want their tax breaks, so they got to control all the drugs. So they criminalize the ones that they can't really control, and then they make all the drugs that they want to control, and they call them the pharmaceuticals. Yeah. And then those pharmaceuticals kill like 200,000 or 300,000 people a year. I mean, literally, hundreds of thousands of people die from over-the-counter medications every year, and yet there's no war on pharmaceutical drugs, and it's totally legal. Yet if I'm selling whatever I want out of my, let's say I'm selling stolen goods, that's still just a financial crime. Let's say people are stealing cars, bringing them to me, and I'm selling the cars to other people, whatever, because they can get them cheaper and they're stolen. It's just a financial crime. Am I going to go to prison for it? Sure, because, that's what this corporation that's posing as a government is telling everybody. You can't do that. You can't do that. You got to do things the way we want. You got to have a job. You can't, make money without paying us part of the money that you're making, and that's the way it is. Or you're going to jail, or you're going to sleep out on the street and you're not even going to have a house.
Oh, you know. Or how about the drug companies, right? It come out with these medications, right? That they know the medications is going to kill you in the long run or do other damage to you. But on top of it, right, they figure, oh, well, gee, that person has cancer, right? And they're going to be desperate. So each pill is $300.
Yeah. That's terrible. And then you're paying high insurance rates, and then the insurance is paying for part of the bill, the pills, right? And then I guess by the time you do die, you're pretty much, your entire estate has been used up in medication and hospital bills.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, they rape you right through the end.
Yeah, right through the asshole.
What?
Well, I can say that. You know, when I used to be on regular radio, you know, that would have, you know what that would have just cost me? I would have got a letter in the mail and a fine from the FCC for saying that.
Really?
You realize that? And I probably would have got, I would have got lectured by the program manager and the station manager on top of it. That's one thing I like about the internet. I could still say that till I hook up on radio stations. Now I want to change. I want to change the subject because we only got less than a half an hour left. Before we get into Hollywood and Vine and some of the movies you made, I know that you also did plays at one point. That's what got you out of the D.O.A. I got to ask you this, okay? American Got Talent. I got to ask you that. Guys, I'm going to tell you this. He got on American Got Talent, got a group of guys, right? Shirtless, you know, lined them up, and he had toilet plungers, and you can go and say the rest.
Okay. Correct. I performed on America's Got Talent throwing plungers at human targets, attempting to break the world record in the plunger throw by hitting the most number of human targets that I could in 60 seconds. And it's funny that you mention that because it really didn't even start with America's Got Talent. I was looking on Craigslist actually for writing jobs. When I was living in Los Angeles, I was writing screenplays, and I was acting, and I was doing extra work in movies and TV shows, working my way to get into the Screen Actors Guild, which I finally did. And so I saw this ad on Craigslist for, can you do any of these things? Can you throw stuff? Can you do this, that, and the other? And there was a list of like 10 or 15 things. And one of them was, do you think you could throw plungers and hit targets? Now, I played Division I college baseball as a left-handed pitcher, so I'm pretty accurate. And I was like, oh, man, I could throw the plunger thing. So come to find out, so I emailed them back, and I made a video of myself throwing plungers saying, yeah, you know, and I made up a story about being in the military and having to throw plungers to end an argument. And so I made the video, and come to find out it was Guinness World Records. So Guinness World Records had me on there and perform an attempt to break the world record in the plunger throw, and I did a whole bunch of videos on that, or a couple of them, long videos. And so I performed on Guinness World Records, and I didn't break the record. And at that time, I had just written a book called Harry Johnson. I co-wrote it with a friend of mine in Pennsylvania who actually hired me off Craigslist too. He was looking for a screenwriter. So he told me he had this story, and I liked it, and I was like, yeah, I'll write this for you, and he paid me to write the screenplay with him, and then I told him, it's such a good story, you should turn that story into a book. So we turned it into a book and published the book, and it's called Harry Johnson, Diary of a Gigolo Porn Star. It's a spoof comedy. So after I did the Guinness World Records thing, Scott, the co-writer, and I, we wanted to get our book to Howard Stern, and we put together a gift basket. He spent like $1,000 on Howard Stern's favorite wine. We sent him the book because we wanted to get interviewed on the show because we were working on getting we wanted John C. Reilly to play the lead character. So it's so weird. It's like be careful what you wish for because you never know what's going to happen. We wanted to meet Howard Stern. So I had just performed on America's Got Talent, and like I was checking an email address that I hardly ever check, and I got an email, and they were like, "Hey, is this the Ronald Famham who performed on Guinness World Records Gone Wild?" And I was like, throwing the plungers, and I said, "Yeah, this is him." And they said, "Well, would you like to do that on America's Got Talent?" And I was like, yeah. So I called my buddy Scott, and I said, "Hey, guess what? America's Got Talent saw me throwing plungers on Guinness World Records Gone Wild. They want me to throw plungers on America's Got Talent." So. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, that's cool because Howard Stern is the host, you know, one of the judges, and we'll get to meet Howard Stern." So I was like, "Cool." So I said, "Well, dude, you got to come out." He was in Pennsylvania, and I was in L.A., and I said, "You got to come out to L.A. for this because we filmed it at the Pantages Theater. That's where they were doing America's Got Talent, which is right across the street from the Hollywood and Vine train station. In fact, if you look at one of the posters from Hollywood and Vine, the movie, one of the lead characters, Sandra, she's standing at the top of the steps of the Hollywood and Vine train station, and over her shoulder you can see the Pantages Theater right behind it. And for me, it's kind of special significance because I wound up performing at the Pantages Theater on America's Got Talent. So the day of the episode that we were going to film for Throwing the Plungers, I needed to have 5 targets that day for me to bring up there. and I had my buddy Scott, who came in from Pennsylvania, and then I had a friend of mine, Giovanni. He's a SAG actor who I met on set, and we were friends and stuff, and he showed up. So we still needed 3 more people. So if you walk around Hollywood Boulevard, there's a lot of homeless people and just like, people begging for cigarettes and stuff. So I found a couple of homeless guys who agreed to do it for cigarettes. So I got 2 homeless guys, and then a friend of mine who was in a band member for The Area. Their song is in Hollywood and Vine, the movie, and he wound up showing up. I called him last. So we get up on stage, and we're going in there, and one of the old guys was so old that I was going to hit with targets that the producers said that the plungers would have torn his skin, and they were like, we can't have this old guy getting hit with plungers. So they replaced him. So 2 of the guys were homeless. One was a friend of mine. One was a band member, and then they gave me another guy. And then I wound up getting to give my book to Howard Stern, like on stage right there. But they cut that out of the episode. And but Howard was nice. He got the book, but nothing ever came of it from him. And then probably a month later, I was working on the TV show Parks and Rec, and Heidi Klum, who happened to be a judge that day on America's Got Talent, she was judging that day, and then she was also working on Parks and Rec as the guest star. And I'm sitting at one of the tables because I was an extra that day on set, and she comes, I'm sitting there talking to my friends, and they're all looking at me funny, and all of a sudden Heidi Klum is standing behind me, and she taps me on the shoulder, and she goes, excuse me, do I know you? Have we done a commercial together or something? And I stood up, and I was like, no, you were a judge when I threw plungers on America's Got Talent. She's like, that's right. And then she's like, did they, I said, they called me to ask me to be on there. She's like, really? She had like no idea how people got on the show, but she was really nice. It was a funny, crazy experience, and I don't mind being known for the guy who threw plungers on America's Got Talent. It's something. If nothing else, I have a plunger I saved, and it's on my wall of fame.
Sounds like the show was a little bit rigged too. Just like the Gong Show was.
I think they brought me in there for comic relief. I knew that I wasn't going in there to be the next great America's Got, American talent that was going to, take me all the way, and I was going to win the show. I knew that I was going to fail. I knew that I wasn't going to set a record, and I knew what my job there was. But the producer told me right before I went on stage, she goes, look, this is your motivation. You're serious about this. You want this. You want to do this. This is important to you. You mean it. You're there. And I was like, okay, that's my motivation. So I went out there with, that, but I did kind of get in a little line. I was like, look, I just want to teach people to take whatever talents they have and use them in ways that they might not have thought of before, like throwing plungers on America's Got Talent. Oh, yeah, that was fun. A lot of people, I got a lot of friends and family members who mention that every now and then.
Well, I did on you tonight. Now, we got to move on because our time, see how the 2 hours go fast? We're going to probably have to get you on in sometime after June when we go to 3 hours. Now, Hollywood and Vine.
Yeah, Hollywood and Vine is now out on DVD, so you can get it on DVD on Amazon if you just type in Hollywood and Vine. I did the poster a little bit different. I kind of gave it a yellow edge to it. But it's also streaming, and I don't know if it was available when we spoke last, but it's now available to stream on Amazon Prime and on Gumroad.com and PivotShare.com, which are a couple of other video-on-demand channels. In fact, there's about 30 different video-on-demand channels now that people are starting to tune into, like Hulu and Vudu and Sling and just all of these. So I'm going through the process of getting Hollywood and Vine up there. And I have Hollywood and Vine up, and on DVD Hollywood and Vine's on DVD, and so is Love at First Sight, the music video, and also True Stories Episode 2, A Lifetime of UFO Abductions, which is it's an intriguing story. you know, it's going to make you think if you watch it about what's really going on with people and missing time. And now I'm happy to say that I just finished the German closed captioning for Hollywood and Vine.